Here's a question for you. I posted a video a couple of weeks ago just talking about my resistance against paying for the TV licence. It's 4 years since I've had a licence, and it was very encouraging to have so many emails and messages and comments from people saying, I stopped paying mine 20 years ago, or I've got a black and white TV licence. You gave me a chuckle and you made me realise that I was slow to the party. But I wanted to talk briefly today just about some news that I've seen filter out over the last couple of weeks. And I think it might be a little bit interesting to pay attention to, because these things are not leaked out for no reason. But in January of this year, 2025, Bloomberg put out a news story and reported that the Prime Minister's office and the Treasury were currently discussing new ways to incorporate streaming services into your TV licence. Now, if you want to know what I mean by that, as many people pointed out in the comments, the TV licence in the UK is for coverage of live television from the BBC, from iPlayer of the BBC, and for any other TV streaming service or TV network that is showing live television. So what I mean by that is, if you're watching Coronation Street on ITV on a Tuesday night at 8 o'clock when it airs, I've no idea when it does air, you can tell me, but when it actually airs, then you need a TV licence. But if you were watching that same show on the ITV streaming service at midnight, for example, you don't need a TV licence. Anything you watch on the BBC, you would need a TV licence. iPlayer, you need a TV licence. You watch live football on Amazon, you need a TV licence. But if you're like me and you're just generally watching YouTube, or you might be watching a bit of Netflix or a bit of Amazon Prime and it's a film or a TV show for the 90s or whatever, that is when you're exempt from a TV licence. Now this discussion by the government office, the Prime Minister, they are actively talking about bringing a licence in that would mean that you would need to pay for anything that you consumed at home. That will incorporate YouTube, that will incorporate ITV. Now, the TV licence, if you haven't been paying attention, has just gone up from the 1st of April. It's gone up to £174.50. That is your annual cost, should you be somebody that chooses to pay for it. And of course, there will be viewers here that have their reasons. They have a family, it's just easy, they've got Sky TV fitted, they love the football. That's all good. It's for everybody else that's been so on it when it came to cancelling a TV licence with the BBC and not wanting it. Now, of course, streaming services, there are almost 20 million users of streaming services in the UK, whilst at the same time, the TV licence has fallen by 500,000 just in the last year. That means that the BBC's revenue has gone down from 3.74 billion per annum, 3.74 billion to 3.66 billion per annum. So the BBC are struggling to make programming that we want to watch in order to have a licence with a budget of 3.66 billion. Yeah. So where is it at now with this discussion? Well, Lisa Nandy, who's the Culture Secretary for the Labour Party in power right now, she has came out and said that she is against any general taxation for streaming services. She said that it is not being considered.
A lot of speculation this week that you are looking at what the future of the BBC will look like and how it will be funded. Is the licence fee still fit for purpose?
It's important that we have free and fair broadcasting in this country that is able to hold the government to account. And so general taxation is not something that we're considering. But there is no question in my mind that the licence fee is not only insufficient, it's raising insufficient money to support the BBC, but it also is deeply regressive. We've seen far too many women prosecuted over recent years for being unable to pay it, and it's a flat fee that means that poorer people pay proportionately more than anybody else.
However, multiple news outlets have reported that the government are actively looking into this.
Okay, so scrapping the licence fee is on the table.
It is.
is it?
It is, yeah.
There have been reports recently that you might be considering funding the BBC out of direct taxation, money from the Treasury, which brings all sorts of questions in about how impartial the BBC can remain.
Yeah.
Is that on the table?
It isn't, actually, and I didn't want to get into ruling out options at this stage, but general taxation is not a funding model that we're considering, not least because it leaves the BBC open to political interference. So general taxation is not something we're considering, but we are thinking very radically and creatively about the future of the licence fee.
Are you thinking of scrapping the licence fee?
Well, look, at the moment, what happens is the licence fee negotiations take place, fewer and fewer people pay it. Some people end up being criminalised for it, particularly women who can't pay, vulnerable women who can't pay, which everyone, including the BBC, feels is unconscionable. And it doesn't raise enough money to fund things like the BBC World Service. So every year, the BBC has to come back to government and ask for an uplift in their funding to be funded through general taxation. So we're looking at all the options for how we might bring in a much more sustainable funding model.
Now tell me, do you trust do you trust an MP when they come out and say, yeah, this is definitely not happening?
Not a penny more.
Nor me. What they tend to do in these situations is that they get a newslet to send out a little bit of this information to see how the public reacts. Do all the normies start to freak out that we might add a little bit more tax on all of the tax that they've all got? Well, we better think about how we launch this, or nobody's paid attention, let's just fire up this extra tax and we'll just add to the books that we can spend on. So that's where we're at. I'm not telling you it's happening. You can check the news sources. Bloomberg 2025 January were the first news outlet, but it has been covered, and I'm looking at my phone here, by 9 different news outlets. What's your thoughts? Let me know down in the chat. I'd love to hear from you. There was a slight, let me say that again. As a slight side to all of that, you may be asking, where are you, John? I thought you were in Lanzarote. I am. But like a Scot, like a Glaswegian that I am, the second that I look outside and I see a little bit of wind, I put a jacket on. In fact, we're only short of having an umbrella with us. It's 22 degrees, it's windy, which turns the chill factor into feeling like it's 13. So 13 to me is freezing. I know that if you look at the BBC weather report right now, they'll tell you that Glasgow is 18 and it's on fire. But they don't do that kind of shit here. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.